I'm not the happiest when I'm at the top of the mountain. I'm really not. I'm the happiest when I'm climbing the mountain. I'm the happiest when I'm like through that midpoint and I'm like, oh shit, look at how far I've come. Oh, look at how far there is to go. That's when I'm my most fulfilled. That's when I'm my most happiest.
Joe Mencel is an IFBB Pro and the founder of MJ Fitness
and TMJ Apparels.
Failure is not the intention, but it is inevitable, and it means that you're on the right path.
You can't achieve anything of value without failure. Generally, people associate failure with bad, and I think that it's a fundamental misassociation.
The jack of all trades is a powerful thing to have in the concept of skills.
Hey man, when you start out in any business, you're inherently going to have to do everything because you don't have the financial capacity to bring on someone to run your warehouse. So you have to learn everything, right? The highlight reel you're seeing is it's not reality. You're not supposed to push the fucking throttle to the max 24/7, 365. And it's really opened my eyes up to it a lot.
Insecurity in the bodybuilding industry seems to be huge. Do you feel like that is quite a big thing?
Yes.
To what extent?
And I think if you get into the sport for the right reasons, it has the capacity to lift all areas of your life up. But
real success is the process of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm.
yes.
Tell me more about that.
Well, it's one of those quotes where like I thought it was originally attributed to Winston Churchill, but apparently it's not. So I don't know where the quote comes from, but it's not one of my original quotes. I definitely heard it somewhere else and you know, kind of adopted it, and I think really because I resonate with it as part of my life's journey, not just business journey, but life's journey. I'm like, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And my life experience reflects that. So yeah, I think, you know, generally people associate failure with bad. And I think that it's a fundamental misassociation because you can't achieve anything of value without failure. Right, it's a necessary ingredient in the recipe of success, and I think that so many of us, and you know, definitely earlier in life, myself included, it was like when I fail, it's bad. When I win, or whatever word you want to use to describe that success, that's good. Well, no, failure is actually good in most cases. Might feel bad in the short term, but it's good because failure, you know, Tom Bilyeu and his podcast, Impact Theory, one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to. He says, and I'm probably going to stuff this up, but it's something along the lines of failure is the most information-rich data stream. It's where you can extract the most lessons. And if you can take those lessons and you can apply them and do things better, what is it about failure that's bad? Nothing.
Yeah. That's why I really like failure is feedback and like seeing it as that. And that was a reframe. I went and saw Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. He came to Adelaide earlier this year. And that was one of the big things that have just stuck with me in my brain. Yeah. And I think is when you can reframe that to understanding that failure is where the lessons are. It doesn't mean it feels good. Like, I think there's two things. People are going to be like, we're not sitting here and being like, when you fail, quote unquote, you're going to feel on top of the world. But what it means is that there's now an opportunity for you to grow and get to that next stage. And if you're not feeling those little elements of failure or setbacks along the way, well, it simply means that you're staying in the same place, which is the true and ultimate failure if you're not moving forward and pursuing those things. Yeah,
that's correct. And I think nobody look, you don't start something with like the goal of failing. Let's put it that way, right? So that's probably why the association is failure is bad, because it's not the intention, right? But it's inevitable. It's unavoidable. It's going to happen. Yeah. And what's most important is what you do with it when it does happen. Yeah. And I think that's why reframing your mindset around it, you know, it feels shit emotionally. It's bad. It's not the outcome that I wanted. But what can I take from this information-rich data stream, extract, apply the lessons, get better, and then ultimately succeed.
Yeah, which is a great reframe. The perfect example there is like, you're not trying to fail, which is, you know, people, you know, there's the wah-wah woo-woo guys on the internet, they'll be like, fail lots, fail this, fail that. And it's like, that's not the intention. which is a really good framing. Failure is not the intention, but it is inevitable, and it means that you're on the right path. So how do you then, enthusiasm is a big word that stuck out for me in that one, because it's pretty hard. Like when you're getting kicked in the guts and something doesn't go well, you lose a lot of money, or you know, the show doesn't go to plan, bodybuilding show. Like, how do you find the enthusiasm within that failure?
That's a really good question. I think for me and my life experiences, the enthusiasm comes from having another shot at it. I reckon, and having another shot of it and having the opportunity to do it better. That's, you know, even talking about it now, like I you know, you mentioned bodybuilding show, right? Like I remember the first bodybuilding show that I ran, by every metric was a complete fucking failure. It was a disaster. And I remember, like, after that first show, man, I was like, shit, you know, I like, have I made the wrong decision here? Like, did I commit to this just, you know, out of excitement, but not actually think it through? And I was like, fuck, man, like I you know, scratching my head going, maybe this was, you know, maybe I fucked up. But the enthusiasm came from, well, hold on a second. No. Okay, that didn't go to plan. But next time I could do this instead. And that didn't, you know, that didn't work the way I thought it was going to work. But perhaps if I tried this way next time, I might get a different outcome. So for me, like, that's where the enthusiasm comes in, is it's like, it really is that reframing of the failure is it's like, okay, I failed, I fucked up. Let me extract the lessons. And then let me get excited about applying the lessons and having the opportunity to do it better again. That's the enthusiasm.
So you constantly, like, you're seeing that next step. Like, it's, I guess, which is being in the present, is you're feeling it, and which is, I know, is something you've talked about before as well, is like feeling the emotion, not like pushing that to the side. It's a thing. It's real. It's very real. You got to sit with that. You got to go through that. But then the excitement, and because someone like yourself that's achieved the success you have in multiple facets of life, it's the pursuit that is so exciting. So therefore you're instantly enthused by that next stage and what you could build and grow and become in the future with that as well.
Man, it's all about the pursuit. Honestly, that is when I am my happiest. That is when I am my most fulfilled. It's actually not, you know, when you think, I like to use the analogy of climbing a mountain. I'm not the happiest when I'm at the top of the mountain. I'm really not. I'm the happiest when I'm climbing the mountain. I'm the happiest when I'm like, probably not at the bottom either, but as I'm kind of like through that midpoint, and I'm like, oh shit, look at how far I've come. Oh, look at how far there is to go. And I'm like when I'm in pursuit, like ultimately that's what it is. That's when I'm my most fulfilled. That's when I'm my most happiest, is like trying to achieve the thing, not actually achieving the thing. In all areas of my life, man, like every time I've achieved the thing, very quickly, it's like, what's next? You know, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. It's probably a bit of both.
I mean, I don't think anyone that's achieved something of any decent level wouldn't have had that. But then I question this every single day. I'm like, well, I always feel like I'm on to the next thing. I always feel like it could be more. But it's like, I think that you can have that pursuit of wanting more, but still have the I'm smelling the roses while doing that. Like I'm very like even, you know, the fact, you know, of I've started a podcast and I'm X amount of episodes in or whatever it may be. It's like, well, that was what this was the dream not long ago, to actually be doing this thing. Now I'm doing the thing. I'm thinking, what's next? But I can still, they're not mutually exclusive. I can be really happy with how far I've come and still want to do more. Which I think people get wrong. They get they're absolutes, which anytime people speak in absolutes, I think is a very dangerous game. And I think if someone is always speaking in absolutes, it's kind of like, well, let's dive a little deeper into that, why they have that opinion, because a strict opinion generally is not open-minded then. And so mutually exclusive, smell the roses, but still strive for more.
100%. It's a good way of thinking about it.
How do you then balance, you know, the pursuit of bodybuilding, the pursuit of business, the pursuit of family life, you know, about to become a dad? There's a lot to obviously navigate there. Like we'll rewind, we'll come maybe to the dad thing in the future as well, but you've grown so much in the competing side of life and business. How have you done that in parallel?
You use the word balance? Did you?
I don't think so.
You didn't use
Maybe.
the word balance?
How do you balance that?
I think you said, how do I balance
Not saying
it?
that you
Yeah.
have a balance,
Yeah.
but how do you, juggle the two, I guess, would be a good.
Yeah. Also, the word juggle. So I used to, and anyone that goes back and watches my content or perhaps has watched it for quite some years would remember, is I used to talk about this concept of micro obsession, macro balance. Mm-hmm. And the way that I described this was, I use the analogy of a circus act, a plate spinner, right? So everyone has kind of seen this before, where it's like a clown in a circus, and he's got like this stick, and he's got a plate, and he spins it, and the plate's spinning, and then so he pulls out another stick, and he's got another plate spinning, and then 3, 4, 5, and he's got like 10 sticks, holding them on his foot, on his arm, all over his body, spinning plates, right? And I was like, okay, if each one of those plates is a different area of your life, and the goal is to have them all spinning at the same time, we can only focus on one plate at one point in time, right? So you have to focus on just your health and fitness, or just your family, or just your business, or like whatever's important to you. Spin that plate, get it spinning. Yeah, get enough momentum. Cool. All right, sweet. Now then, let's go on to the next plate. And that focusing on each area of your life at a particular point in time was the micro obsession. And then zooming out and seeing all the plates spinning at the same point in time was the macro balance. And that served me very well in the early stages of my life and of my career in business and competing and everything really, until it didn't. And I think what happened was I got to a certain level where I could no longer micro obsess. And it was setting me up for, it's interesting because the way that so I work with a clinical psychologist. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like my breaking a mental sweat. And she's known about this analogy for many, many years. And I got to a point in my life where she started to go, you really need to start questioning the way that you're thinking about that, because it implies that eventually the plates are going to smash if you don't direct your attention to keeping them spinning. And she said, you're at a point in your life now where the plates are going to spin anyway. You don't need to go and be micro obsessed, right? The balance is there. She said, you need to start thinking about a different way of thinking about the way the different areas of your life tie in together, because this balance thing, this juggling thing, this spinning plates thing, it no longer serves you. It can't serve you. You've got too much going on. There's too many things that require obsession at the same point in time. It can't be one thing to the exclusion of everything else. Mm-hmm. And I think that was what I fell into, right? And I've been married before. I went through a divorce, marriage breakdown. I've been through business failures. I've been through, you name a part of my life, I've failed, like crashed and burned, failed like big time in every area. And the problem is I was setting myself up with this micro obsession, macro balance thing to focus on one thing to the exclusion of everything else. So, which was great, because when I was micro obsessed with bodybuilding, well, it led to me becoming pro men's physique athlete. First one in South Australian history. It led to me going and creating history, the first Australian men's physique pro to do the Pittsburgh Pro, New York Pro. Fantastic. But what about the other areas of my life?
At what cost?
Yeah, right. When I was micro obsessed in business, fucking brilliant. I built the biggest supplement retailer in the state, one of the biggest in the country, from literally my fucking bedroom, like literally a room half the size of the room we're in at the moment was where I started. I had a fucking bookshelf like this. This bookshelf was my warehouse. That's where I had my subs, right? Started there, micro obsessed, built into this, fucking 8-figure business. Fantastic. But what about the other areas of my life? Right. So the problem is the micro obsession was to the exclusion of everything else. So I had to break it down. That's why I don't use the word balance anymore, or juggling, or spinning plates, or anything. I talk about synchronous goals, and I talk about the different areas of my life interconnecting like gears, so that if I'm focused on any area, it's like the spinning plates have now come together, and they're all interconnected like gears in a gearbox. So if I'm focused on my bodybuilding, it's not to the exclusion of everything else. It actually enhances every other area of my life. So it makes me a better businessman. It makes me a better leader. It makes me a better husband. If I'm focused on business, it makes me a better athlete. It makes me a better husband, soon to be father. It's this change in mindset where it's like, no, focusing and going all in on one thing at one point in time doesn't have to be at the exclusion of everything else. I need to start thinking about how I can get these things to work together so that every single micro obsession now actually assists the macro balance, right? So everything is working together. I talk about synchronous goals is what I talk about. Synchronously, it all ties in together. So that's how I think about it now. And I'm really like, I stay away from the word balance. I just don't use it anymore because it implies zero sum. It implies you're either in balance or out of balance. Yeah. It implies for something to be in balance, something else has to be out of balance. So it's one thing to the exclusion of the other, right? You talk about people who talk about things in absolutes. It's a very similar concept when you talk about balance, when you talk about juggling, when you talk about spinning plates. It's one thing to the exclusion of everything else. So I try and just, what we speak into existence is very powerful. So I just try not to speak that into existence anymore.
Yeah. Would you then say that like it's still important to have that layer of the ability to be in the micro is in the fact of the task that you're doing at said time? So it's not to like, it's, for 30 minutes of the day, like it's being able to dedicate X time to this task so that I'm not distracted then as well is very different to you being like, I'm all in on bodybuilding only and maybe for, 6 months. And because once again, time is, when I think you've talked about this before as well, if we really zoomed out, most things are very micro, maybe pushing macro in the grand scheme of things. It's like, but like, is that what you mean there as well? Like, it's not to say that when you're doing one task, you're fucking scatterbrained, obviously.
No, that's right. Yeah.
You have to be able to channel.
You have to be able to channel 100%, but it's not that you being focused on one thing has to be at the exclusion of everything else. When we talk about like, okay, we talk about productivity, for example, and in productivity, multitasking has been the culture for so long, and now we've gone in the other direction. It's about monotasking. It's about, okay, how can you just say yes to one thing at one point in time and say no to everything else, which is super important. And I talk about this when it comes to opportunity cost in business as well. But what I'm saying is from a setting it up in your mind, I think that trying to find some sort of magical balance across the different areas of your life is just not a good way to think about it. And I'm not saying that, and this is what I talk about, Jordan, is like that served me very well in my life until it stopped serving me pretty well, right? And for some people at some point in their life, I still think that there's probably value in looking at things that way, especially if you're this sort of person where you just kind of dabble in all this shit. It's like, man, just fucking pick one thing and go all in. But as you develop the skills of doing that, the question then becomes, well, how can I be all in on everything at the same point in time? Because at some point, to get to the next level, you're going to have to. So it's okay. How do I get things to interconnect, to be synchronously connected rather than just focusing on one thing to the exclusion of everything else? Yeah.
Which I think is a good point there as well. You made that like it depends on also the time in your journey as well.
It does,
and because like I see this happen there's so many times, like, and it's, you see guys who they fucking hustle, they work, they grind, they have that, I guess the Mamba mentality where they're just all in and they do push other things to the side and then they get to the other side of that and try and preach balance. It's like, hold on, motherfucker. You didn't have any form of like lifestyle outside of this obsession to become the world's greatest at whatever it is. Don't now flip it around and tell people that that's how you got there. It's not how you got there. But it's now that you've been on the other side of it, you can have the opinion to be like, at what cost? Is it worth it? All these sort of things. And you can sit on that, I think, a little bit as well.
Yeah. And it's why I'm very cautious to say, this is how I used to think about things and it served me. I'm not saying it was shit. I'm saying it served me. It fucking looked like the results speak for themselves. It served me. But it got to a point where it stopped serving me. And that's where I needed to start questioning it. It almost started to become a little bit of a limiting belief in my own mind, right? I'm always very, very conscious of like framing it like that, because you're correct. Like it depends at what point along your journey you are, right? The micro obsession, macro balance thing, very valuable for people like starting out, for sure. Of course. You have you have to.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm kind of at a point in my life now where that setup doesn't serve me anymore. So I needed to challenge it, which I think ultimately is like it's growth mindset, right? Yeah. Like, you always have to be willing to learn and question things and try and find better ways of doing things. Ties into what we first started talking about, failure. Yeah. It's a very similar process.
So then when you're like, as time's gone on, you've had more things come into your life, whether that be, obviously business grows. So therefore that means that, your workload increases and all these sort of things increase. And, you're talking about wanting, you had the podcast, wanting to revamp that and add more and more and more. Do you think part of that ability to do more is just you have to like do the reps within one, and then you get to the stage where you push to the boundaries and you do two things, and then you do the reps and you figure out how to make that work simultaneously, and then you move to the next thing. Like it's, if you tried to do 5 things day one, you'd be like, fuck. But if you did one and then slowly added these extra layers over time, is that how you kind of think about those things as well?
Yeah, 100%. And I've spoken about this publicly before. I think we actually spoke about it on one of the Fitness Times Business podcast episodes. No, we definitely did. Now I can, because I remember actually the setup of it all.
The visuals are coming
back.
The
visuals are coming. Well, it was a few months ago now, but the visuals are coming back. It's I think Alex Hormozy spoke about it, and Brandon brought it up in one of our episodes, and I said I agree, but I also disagree. And it's the having like a jug of water and trying to fill a cup up, and just having one cup and like filling it until it overflows, or having like 10 cups and only filling all of them up like 10%, right? And he's like, when Hormozy was talking about it, he was saying, the people that achieve, it was to do with income streams in particular. He was like, the people that are the richest people I know went all in on one income stream, and he pours the jug of water into the glass and it overflows. And when that glass was overflowing, then they went and focused on the other income streams. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, and it applies to things outside of income streams as well. Like you have to find that one thing and become an expert at it, right? I think it ties into what we're speaking about with multitasking as well, right? I think a lot of people go wrong where they try and be like a jack of all trades, master of none. So they want to do this and 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 they want to dabble in that and have fucking 10 things going. And they kind of do okay at like a bunch of things, but they don't really get really good at that one thing. And I think that's a trap, especially a lot of entrepreneurs. Like, man, I do business mentoring, right? So I work with a lot of different business owners and mentor them. And it's one of the most common things that I see. And these are like successful business owners, and they're still at that point where it's like, yeah, and I want to go do this, and I want to pursue this thing, and I want to do that thing. And I'm just like, man, just hold on a second. Right? Opportunity cost. What's the cost associated with saying yes to all these things? You're inherently having to say no to things. We all have limited time and resources and effort and energy. So if you're taking that limit and you're spreading it over these 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things, how good do you think you're going to become? Right? Let's peel them off. Right? What's the most important? It might not be one thing. It might be 2 things. It might be 3 things. What's the most important? Let's challenge. Let's go there, right? Let's focus on that. Let's get really fucking good at that. Then we can start thinking about how we build on that. So back to your question. Yeah, it's like pick the one thing, get really fucking good at it. For me in business, it was supplement retailing, right? It was online actually, was where I first started. We go and do that, become really good at that. All right. And then it's kind of layered on. And now, and I think this is a lot where the trap comes from, is like a lot of younger people as well will see someone like me and they're like, oh, fuck, he runs MJ Fitness, previously Massive Joe's. He runs the Apparel brand. He's got IFBB Pro League. He MC shows. He mentors people. He's a men's physique pro. He does all this shit. and they think that it all happened at the same time. Nah, man, it was one thing at a time. It was like, okay, the first thing in business was I got really good at retailing supplements online. Cool. Then I went and started with bricks and mortar retail stores. Okay, cool. Then I went and started an apparel line. Okay, cool. Then I went and got the opportunity with the IFBB Pro League. So like it's if you look at the journey through the arrow of time, it's literally like it's one thing. It's just I've been doing it for fucking 20 years. So over that period of time, you start layering the things on top of each other and you end up with, you know, a whole lot of shit going on.
Similar to like training a muscle in the gym, or, you know, take a deadlift for an example. You don't walk in and deadlift 200 kilos on day one. You start with, you know, 40 and then 60 and then you build it up there. Much like this is you building your capacity to manage multiple things at any given time. And that comes with a team, that comes with all those other things as well. But I did want to just like explore the jack of all trade things a little bit more, because it's interesting. I hear like varied opinions and, you know, I'll share mine from a young, you know, a little bit, early in the game. And so the way I see, and I think, you know, your framing of jack of all trades is perfect in the like I agree in the terms of like trying to do too many things at once. But I wonder as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, the jack of all trades is a powerful thing to have in the concept of skills. And so I think trying to do too many different businesses is a terrible idea. But, and, you know, once again, tell me if I'm wrong, but the ability to have the skills in multiple different facets means that you can oversee and help manage your business a lot better as well. You know, like you don't necessarily have to be the best software developer or the best at marketing or the best at video content or whatever it is, but having some knowledge would likely be very helpful.
Hey man, when you start out in any business, you're inherently going to have to do everything. You know, because you don't have the financial capacity to bring on someone to run your digital ads or to run your business development or to run your warehouse or, you know, whatever product, whatever it is, whatever the business is. So you have to learn everything, right? You have no choice.
It's that or it doesn't happen.
It's that or it just becomes a dream and doesn't turn into anything. So, you know, in terms of out of necessity, just doing everything, 100%. But then you're going to have to pick what you want to become an expert in, because you're not going to be able to develop all of those skills at the required rate to become an expert in all of them at the same time. Right. So that's where it's like, okay, out of necessity, you're going to have to dabble in this and dabble in that. And that's just part of building a business. But at some point you're going to have to go, okay, oh shit, now my business is doing, you know, 10K a month, 100K a month. Oh, now I've got, I need to start hiring people. Okay. What do I want to take off my plate? Because that's what hiring people is, right? What do I want to take off my plate? Am I tradie? Do I want to get off the tools so I can focus on sales? Okay. Or do I want to get off the tools so I can focus on biz dev? Okay, cool. You know, if I'm a lawyer, right? I've just started my own law practice. All right. Do I want to get out of admin so that I can focus on growing my, you know, like those sorts of things? You're going to have to decide what you want. It's opportunity cost. Again, you're going to have to decide what you want to say no to, which is going, okay, I've done everything because I've had to, but now I'm going to start peeling these things off so that I can really focus on what I want to become the best at.
How do you navigate then those business ideas, the thoughts that come to your mind where like these guys are having, they're going, fuck, that's a great idea. I want to do this. I want to do that. How do you know if it's a distraction or if it's actually something you should pursue? Because, you know, arguably there are times where you go, that's actually a really good fit, that idea. You know, we should pursue it. How do you decipher that?
Opportunity cost and getting very granular with opportunity cost. So a lot of people have heard of the concept opportunity cost before. A lot of people don't really understand what it means because it's a bit of a juxtaposition of words. It doesn't really make sense. So what it is when you say yes to a particular opportunity and you say, yes, I'm going to invest the time, I'm going to invest the effort, I'm going to invest the money, I'm going to invest the energy, I'm going to invest in saying yes to that opportunity, because our time, our effort, our energy, our money, our resources are limited. By saying yes to that thing, it carries with it an inherent no to another thing. And there's a cost associated with the no, right? So a lot of people just focus on the yes. They don't understand that there's an inherent cost associated with the no. So it comes down to balancing the costs, right? So is the upside that's associated with saying yes to this opportunity greater or less than the cost associated with the inherent no to every other opportunity that I'm going to be pulling resources, limited resources away to dedicate them to investing in this new opportunity. You have to get very granular with that. It's another thing Tom Billu talks about on his podcast a lot is he's like one of the most fundamental, misunderstood, underrated business skills is being able to get very granular with that sort of stuff, right? Is this worth the opportunity cost? Yes or no? Very granular.
Yeah.
Yes or no? You can't be, I'm not real sure. Let me just do both things and see. No. Is it worth the opportunity cost? Yes or no? I think that's what you have to do. And every time that you feel like you're being pulled away or you've got this idea or you want to explore this, yeah, cool, go explore it a little bit. But at some point, it's going to be like, okay, am I going to invest in this knowing that I think the return is going to be greater than the cost associated with the inherent no, the opportunity cost?
Yep.
Yes or no? If it is, good, go do it. If it's not, say no.
Yep.
Go back to what you were doing.
Is being so strict on the yes or the no also because that then frames it as you backing your decision? Like if you're like, yeah, well then it's like, well, if you don't take your own word for it, well, neither is going to work now. You've fucked yourself.
Yeah. I think so. And I think more importantly than that, so often we take things that are meant to be black and white and we try and make them gray, right? We take things that are meant to be like, okay, I know the decision is move forward or move backwards or go left or go right or say yes or say no. Like there's two options here. It's binary, right? It's 1 or it's 0. But we kind of go, let me just stay in the middle for a bit and just experiment with it. And let me try yes, but no, no, oh yeah, but maybe I should. It's black or it's white, right? Like, and I think it's in so many areas of your life. Stay out of the gray, right? Just make a decision, stick with it, back yourself.
It's interesting because I noticed like only recently, like I said to you with the, business I'm starting up and very, very deep in at the moment is as soon as I committed more money and more time and more effort, the more I do that, the more I don't look back, like the more I'm in it. And I think that's like, you if you pull the credit card out, you're fucking in, like people, walk into the gym for the first time. I want to lose weight. And then they leave and they don't sign up to the gym. And it's like, well, that's the gray.
Yeah.
You sign up to the gym, you contact the PT, you get a PT. That's the one. That's the black. That's the white. Like you're in. And the same with business, especially for like young entrepreneurs. Like I've fallen into that trap over the last few years, finishing school, and you dabble and you don't quite commit. And maybe rightly so, because I was kind of like, you just felt like it wasn't right. And so you were kind of, I think if you're a little bit iffy, it's probably a no. But then with this thing that I'm working on now with the nutrition app in check and everything, it's just there. Like that I have fully committed. And I think part of that comes from what you put into it as well.
Yeah, I think definitely, it's you get to that kind of critical mass of investment where you're like, fuck, I'm in now. Like I'm in.
Let's do it.
It's like, okay, we're in. I think the other reason why it's so important, Jordan, is because let's take your example at the moment, right? So you're building a nutrition app, right? There's a lot of nutrition apps out there, man. There's a lot, right? There's a lot to choose from. Importantly, there's a lot of people who are investing everything they've got in developing theirs.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you think you're going to even have the chance of being competitive if you're not all in? Right? How do you think you're going to dabble against somebody who's working 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours a day, giving up sleep, giving up weekends, giving up time with their friends, their family? They're fucking all in. They've invested their life savings. They've got that. There is no plan B. This has to work. How do you think you're going to compete with that person running the same thing you're running if you're just kind of dabbling?
Doesn't happen.
No.
You're
Of
not
course
gonna-
it doesn't happen.
You see, probably a very evident example of that is like sport.
Yeah.
We've all heard the MJ story. We've all heard
Yep.
those sort of things before, like the level of obsession, the level of
Yep.
and I think that, once again, so maybe does what field you're playing on therefore depend on how obsessed you have to be? Like if you didn't maybe want that level of obsession, then don't play the global market.
Yeah.
Play the local market where
Yeah.
there's maybe a little less, not saying that any local businesses are, that's a breeze, don't worry. But like it's maybe you don't have to quite fight as many people to get there, because I think this is what also people get wrong. It's you versus you, but it's also not. There's competition, business, relationships, even trying to become the person that your partner would want, all those sort of things. It's a competition still.
100%. Yeah. It's like the whole fucking, oh man, it just grinds my gears. It's like the whole self-love movement direction, whatever the fuck you want to call it, has just gone like way too far in that direction.
100%.
Like one of the gym that I train at has a big fucking neon sign. I see it every morning when I walk in and it says you versus you. I'm like, the fuck is that?
I'm like pretty sure when I step on the stage, I have to beat others. Like you don't get the gold medal because you look better than last year.
Better than last time. Everyone's getting fucking gold medals. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, it's yeah, it's a competition. Like everything is a competition. You can break it down, like you mentioned, finding a life partner. It's a competition. You're up against every other guy that girl finds attractive, or vice versa. Every other girl that guy finds attractive. It's a fucking competition.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck that you're better than the person you were yesterday. Like
Still a piece of shit.
yeah, let's get serious here.
Yeah.
And the same thing, just to tie it back to what we were talking about with in business, like, man, there's no fucking medals for you doing better than you did last month or last year or whatever. Yeah, fantastic. That's great. It's personal development. It's 100%. It is an element of success and achieving success and being in pursuit of success in any area of your life. Personal development, I'm fucking big on it, right? Trying to get, the cliche at the moment is 1% better every day, right? Trying to just incremental improvement, just trying to, take the failures, turn them inside out, learn the lessons, apply the lessons, get better. Absolutely. But when you're trying to succeed in anything, whether it's business, whether it's finding a life partner, whether it's health and fitness, whether like anything, it's competition. It's competitive, right? So it's you versus you. That's the punchy ticket to get in the game. Now you're in the game, and now what you can do? You're gonna keep being you versus you, or you're gonna go and compete against everyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess like it's the you versus you mindset is a good frame for the right now, maybe. Like it's in this task. Well, like I can only, when I go and train in the gym, when I'm lifting the weights, it is me versus the guy that I was lifting that weight last week or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But when you zoom out and go, I'm stepping on stage, well, now we're talking competition. And so the way you train may be a reflection of how do I beat my competition. Then when I do train, it is me versus me.
Yeah.
And it's like, once again, all of these things here we're saying, they're not mutually exclusive, which I think is where people are going. It's like, oh, it's that, not that.
Yeah.
Black and,
Yeah. Well, I think it's different levels as well, right? It's like, you talk about the competing side of things, the you versus you thing. Yeah, 100%. If you're trying to like lose a little bit of weight, if you're trying to get in a little bit better shape, if you're like you versus you, fantastic. But then you get to a level where like everyone is you versus you, and that might be a competition. It doesn't have to be a physique-based sport. It could be a CrossFit. It could be High Rocks is big at the moment. It could be that sort of thing, right? Everyone is you versus you. Everyone, that's what I mean. That's punching the ticket to get in the game. Like at that point, everyone's there. So then it becomes, okay, well, what's the next level? Well, it's you versus everyone else. And if you're good enough, right, then you go to the next level where once again, the prerequisite to get to that level, everyone's there. Right? Everyone works hard. Everyone diets. Everyone does skill development. Everyone does that's the prerequisite for that next level. And okay, so now how do I get ahead? Yeah. Well, it's the competition, right? And so that might be, I don't know, working harder, doing more hours, being in the game longer, whatever it is. And then you get to the next level and everyone's there again, right? So it's just like, it's almost like rungs on a ladder, right? You versus you as the bottom rung. Yeah. That's where it starts.
It's interesting because I think like it also like the field you're playing in there, and I think really good you're talking about there is if it's not like, if you're not in a competitive scenario, then you can probably settle for the you versus you thing a little bit more. But I really liked it, and you know, anytime you bring him up, you know someone's going to get upset. But I think Andrew Tate said it as well. And in terms of finding a life partner, you know, would you, if you were in, you know, say take my scenario, if I was the woman, would I date me? Like, would I go for me? And it's like, well, fuck, you know, then you start to question some of those things. And so that has been the best reframe for me, because I live by my 3 goals in life: fitness, finance, and family. That's all I care about. I like, you know, obviously there's a lot of legs that come off of the back of that as well. But so I'm like, well, am I becoming the person that my dream partner would actually go for? Because it's really easy to be like, I dream of being with that person. It's like, yeah, but do you deserve them?
Yeah.
Because you can't just ask for everything and not give anything either. Which probably comes back to the same thing with effort. You can't ask for the big goal and then your effort be down here.
100%. You got to earn it. Use the word deserve. I prefer the word earn. For me, like,
work for it.
You got to earn it. You know, like you want the I mean, fucking name anything in life, right? You want to live in the nice house, you want to drive the nice car, you want to date the nice girl, or you want to be married to the nice girl or the nice guy, you want to have the nice family life, you want this, you want that. You're not entitled to any of that shit, man. Like you don't deserve any of it. You have to earn it. So if you want to live in the nice house, what's it going to take for you to earn that house? If you want to be married to that level of woman, what's it going to take for you to earn being married to that level of woman or level of man or whatever the fuck, man? You know, like this entitlement culture, this I deserve this. Why? Because you fucking, your parents had sex and created you and you're here, like that entitles you to all this? No, it doesn't. You know, it's similar to what we're talking about. There's like levels to it. You know, you have to put in what's required to achieve the level that you aspire to be at.
That's good. Clip. Perfect. And that was really, that resonates well. So why do you do what you do despite the success you've had? Like, why do you keep going? Because a lot of people, you know, what you dreamed of when you started the supplement business, I'm sure you may have surpassed some of those dreams, goals. Yeah. Why do you keep going?
I'm really big on why and just cause. You know, I think I was probably introduced very early on to, man, I reckon it was probably from Richard Branson. I was going to say Simon Sinek because he's kind of known for like, you know, start with why and defining your why and your just cause and all that sort of stuff. But I reckon it was Richard Branson. One of the first books that I read when I was a teenager was Losing My Virginity. And he doesn't explicitly talk about, you know, your why and your just cause, but you know, it's very obvious, you know, when he walks through how he started Virgin Music and then, you know, all of the things that he's done since then. He had a very strong purpose for doing it. That was not to build a business. It was not financially motivated. There was something deeper there. So a big thing for me is I always come back to my why and my just cause. And this is where the Simon Sinek influence comes in. So the difference between the two, he says the why always kind of looks backwards, whereas your just cause looks forwards. So for me, my why is to make the most of the sacrifices that my parents and my grandparents made to give me the opportunities that I have. And then I guess looking forward is to provide even greater opportunities for my family. So that's a big driver for me. you know, without getting too deep into my family history, half Italian, half Polish. Italian on my mum's side, Polish on my dad's side. Both families, well, the Polish side of my dad's side of the family was literally pushed out of Poland when the Germans invaded in World War II. My Italian side of my family was incredibly poor, war-torn Italy. Literally came to Australia on a boat.
Doesn't get much tougher than that.
Man, my mum was born in Italy. You know, she came over when she was 4 years old, literally on a boat. You know, so very, very, you know, have very humble beginnings. Definitely in this country, and incredible sacrifice. And I often think about, fuck, like would I have done that? Like, would I have had the courage to do what my grandparents did? And then my parents as well. Like my dad, for almost all of his career, like he worked in oil and gas, and most of his career was spent in the jungles in Indonesia. You know, where he'd work 12-hour days, and you know he was doing shifts there where he was away for 4 weeks and he was back for a week, away for 4 weeks and back for a week. And I'm like, man, I think I work hard. Fuck, like, you know. So that sacrifice to me is huge. And I'm like, I just want to make sure, you know, my grandparents and my parents would never allow me to, like, quote unquote, repay that. But for me, it's not about necessarily repaying it. It's just making sure that, like, that sacrifice wasn't done in vain. Yeah. Right. So like, I'm going to show you through my actions that, like, I'm eternally grateful for everything you guys did to give me the opportunities that I have today. And then I want to be able to do that for my children as well, right? For my family. So that's my why. And I always come back to that. And then my just cause is to help all people improve their lives. And at the moment, the vehicle for doing that is health and fitness. And I do that through products, information, and experiences. You know, I'm really, and as I'm developing through my career, it's becoming more and more obvious to me, you know, one of the things that I'm most passionate about, and it takes, like I say, vehicles, like it takes different forms and it uses different vehicles to get there, but I'm very passionate in helping people get better. Yeah. You know, whether that's physically through their health and fitness, which I think is foundational, whether that's through their business, the business mentoring that I do now. Like, why did I decide to start doing that? Because I wanted to help people in their business get better, right? Whether it's through even podcasting, doing this sort of stuff. Well, I think if I can share some of the lessons, if I can share some of the knowledge, if I can share some of the experience, you know, one person might hear that and it might just hit them at the right time and they resonate and they go, fuck, I didn't think of it like that. Let me go and apply that. 10 years later, I see them, I'm fucking doing a tour or a workout or I'm somewhere and they come up to me and they're like, man, I heard you on Jordan Checker's podcast, you know, back in 2024. And I was going through this at that point in my life and I heard what you said and I took it and I applied it. And here I am 10 years later and I'm married. I've got 2 kids. I've got this fucking awesome career, awesome business. And that was the catalyst. Yeah. So that's my just cause. And
there's not many better feelings than when that conversation does occur. Like it's, man, when you've impacted someone at that level, you're like, set you back a bit.
Yeah, 100%.
Hit somewhere that you're like, I didn't realize I had that sometimes. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Which I mean, you know, being in the fitness space, like would be whether depending on the level and the depth of that as well is a common thing. Like when you help someone lose weight or they now build up muscle and they're so much more confident in their body and all those sort of things. Like it seems so trivial, but like you said, because even if they haven't even verbalized it themselves, the deeper why and their reasoning behind wanting to achieve those things are so powerful, so powerful. And I always ask my clients is the question, like, ask yourself why you want to do something 5 times. Probably you get close enough to that deeper cause and that deeper reason why. It's like, I want to lose weight. Why? And then you go down the rabbit hole and you might end up being like, because I don't feel comfortable, you know, at nighttime with the lights on with my partner. Yeah. And I want to. Yeah. And you go, that's a bit of a deeper reason why than I want to lose weight.
It's funny, man. I was in one of our retail stores yesterday and a customer came in and it was just one of these customers that just wanted to tell me everything. And I love that. And I could see he'd shop with us a lot. And he started telling me his story, and he was like, yeah, I'm down this time last year. So like 12 months ago, I'm down like 17 kilos. Fuck. And I could tell he was older. Like he would have been in probably mid 50s, I would say. Yeah. And I was like, look, just out of interest, I said, because fantastic, fucking awesome. Love seeing it. We hear about these sorts of things often in this, what we do, right? So I'm interested to know, what was the catalyst for you? Like, because I can see you probably in your 50s. Just 12 months ago, you decided to lose that weight. So there must have been something that clicked. And he started going, he started telling me, oh yeah, I tried and didn't work. And then I tried again and it didn't work. And I kept kind of I was like, okay, tell me a little bit more about your life. And then he let me have it. He goes, yeah, look, my previous marriage failed. I just remarried like 18 months ago. We've just had a little daughter, right? And I was like, that's what it was. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah. And you have to get deep with it, because then that's, we all talk about sustainable results. Yeah. That's the sustainable result.
Yeah. It's got to be deeper. Yeah. Yeah. So
do you find that same sort of your reason why, do you have some different ones depending on the different parts of your life? Like, it's all rooted in that.
It all comes back to that, man. Yeah, it all comes back to that. Like I said, the just cause has definitely like evolved. Yeah, for sure. It's always been about helping and inspiring people to improve their lives. And everything that I've kind of done up until this point has been through health and fitness. Yeah, definitely. Specifically with supplements and apparel and workouts and apps and all these sorts of things. But it has been health and fitness focused. But now it's starting to kind of pivot a little bit into other things as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but my why has always been that, even before I defined it, even before I knew, how to kind of articulate it. Yeah. Those were always things that I would think about.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I wonder, I don't know, I feel like probably once again, the minority scream the loudest a lot of the time. And in a country like Australia, that is one of, if not the best countries in the world. Like I haven't done a huge amount of travel, but I don't think I really need to realize how fucking amazing it is.
We're very privileged.
But I'm blown away by still how much people can complain and not feel that gratitude. And I wonder, like I can openly say I've had a very privileged life. Not had to go through too much shit. But I also look at this and I go, oh my God, this is amazing. But I see so many people that don't appreciate a place like Australia, and it just blows my mind. And I just, I think they need to go on a holiday somewhere that's actually tearing apart and falling apart to pieces to realize, oh, maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah, it's lack of perspective. Yeah, big time. I think, one of the most powerful experiences that my parents probably didn't intend on giving me, but gave me. So I mentioned that my dad worked in Indonesia for most of his career. So for a number of years there, he was based in Jakarta, which is the capital city in Indonesia. And so I was, I'm going to say 9-10 years old. It was like the mid 90s, was my parents decided to move our whole family to Jakarta. Wow. And so we lived in Jakarta for almost 2 years in the mid 90s. And for me, like I have this very vivid memory. The expats would usually live in like gated communities, right? We called them compounds, but they were gated communities. So, you have these big fuck off houses and, gated community security 24/7. You'd have like a cook, a maid, a driver, because like people didn't have jobs, right? It's a third world country, Indonesia. And it was like super cheap, but you just employed as many people as you can. And, the company picked up the bill for like fucking everything. So literally like you lived really well, like fucking royalty. Right. And I have this very, very vivid memory. So we're living in this gated community, like I mentioned, like literally gate and 24/7 security. And across the road, you go outside the gated community and it was literally like slums. Like you throw a stone, you're there, right? And it was like families like living in fucking tents, like across. And I saw that as a 9-year-old. And before that, I'd only ever known Australia, right? So that was my perspective. I had nothing, I see stuff on TV and whatever, but that's not real. But then to see that and I'm like, fuck, like that little kid, like my age, like lives,
Like, what's the difference?
like doesn't have a bed, like fucking sleeps on the floor in a tent. That was so powerful for me to see that at that young an age, because immediately it gave me perspective. I was like, man, most of the world does not live like we do in this country.
No.
They do not, right? You think about how many people there on planet Earth now, 8 billion, close to 8 billion. How many people in this country? 30 million?
Yeah.
It's a fraction,
There's a lot
man.
that are living them very differently.
There's well, even if you take first world countries and you look at the population of first world countries and you compare it to the total population of the planet, most people live in like poverty, like very basic existence.
And I'd argue that even of the first world countries, Australia is far superior living situations to a lot again.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing, back to that point of like, you don't deserve this. It's like, that is pure luck that we have been born into this. I know someone will be like, oh no, it's karma from general. I'm like, no, luck. I got fucking lucky, all right?
Yeah.
You know, but sure, there's the little element of like like you said, your parents did that. So it wasn't luck on that full behalf, but for you, it was luck that you got born into this situation versus that same kid that you lock eyes with and you go, looks kind of like me, you know, same height, you know, both are like playing with the basketball or whatever, but like, you know, why is it so different? Like it's pretty crazy, and the perspective is a massive thing, because you can watch it on TV, but it doesn't hit the same as when you go to a place. That's where the impact lies.
Yep.
So maybe people that are, you know, feeling like Australia is not that great, book a flight.
Yeah, but literally book a flight. You know, we're in this country, we're very close to Asia, Southeast Asia. Fuck, man, like don't go to Bali, right? Where there's all these fucking resorts and shit.
Just Westerners,
right? Like
anyway.
Go to the jungles of Sumatra,
Yeah.
you know, or go to Jakarta, like go to a big city in a Southeast Asian country and don't go to like the big hotels and like go to where like the people that live there actually live. Go check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it would make a big impact.
Yep.
Bodybuilding. What does a week of training look like?
So at the moment it's hard, man. Yeah. So I work with a couple of coaches. My training coach is Jay Tyler, who's known as the Strength Coach, is his business, his brand. And he's got me at the moment. I'm on a 5-day split. So I'm resting 2 days a week, which usually when I'm in a contest prep, I'll have 6 days. So I'll have a 1-day rest just to increase my caloric output. But it's 5 days a week at the moment. I train, so I've just started this new block, so I'm going to have to just think about this for a second. So Mondays is back and biceps, Tuesdays is chest and triceps, Wednesdays is rest, Thursdays, today is shoulders, Fridays is back and chest, Saturdays is rest, Sunday is legs, arms and shoulders. So yeah, there's a lot of volume.
There's a bit going on.
There's a bit going on. Yeah.
How has that changed? Is it like that right now because you've noticed weaknesses from your last show or whatever it may be?
100%. Yeah. So my training has evolved a lot over the years. You know, back when I first started, it was just about just building. I just need, you know, as anyone, right? Like you got no muscle, so you're going to build something. So, you know, I started very early on. It was probably like before like push-pull legs existed. It was probably like push-pull legs. And then very quickly kind of transitioned to a bro split. You know, I'd go train chest one day and then back and then arms and then shoulders and then legs and, you know, do those once a week. And that was, you know, really good. And that was pretty much the way that I trained right up until I turned pro in men's physique. And then when I kind of came, and you know, so many things we've talked about today, Tyne, hey? So when I got to that level, and it's like, okay, like everyone looks fucking good at that level. And it's like, okay, now it's about like really the finer details is, I completely trained. This is when I started working with Jay, actually, because I was like, fuck, okay, I need help. And
it's pretty amazing to hear. Like you can look like this and still be like, I need help.
I need help. Yeah. And then it was, okay, this is the category that I want to try and be one of the best in the world at.
Yeah.
So now my training reflects the shapes that I'm trying to create with my physique, which in men's physique is chest, back, shoulders are dominant. Legs, no one even looks at.
But it'd be nice to have something to stand on still.
Nice to make sure you don't look like you got chicken legs.
Don't want to be a pussy.
Yeah, so it's definitely kind of now tailored. Like the split that I do now, like I would not recommend anybody do except for me, because it's based on where my physique is at, my weaknesses, what I need to bring up, what I need to bring down, what I need to maintain to create a specific look with my physique that suits being a professional men's physique athlete. It's weird.
Yeah, like training, you're not training just for general, like it's a very specific goal. So therefore, like the way you do everything is not what the Gen Pop person would be pursuing on their gym journey.
That's right. Yeah.
At the same time, it will still work.
Yes.
Because if you train hard with some intensity, any workout split's going to do you wonders, especially for the first few years when you don't have much on your frame at all.
Yeah.
But there's probably could be better ways for more specifics for other people as
well. That's right. Yeah.
And what about, it's interesting conversation. I know I mentioned that we may dive into this topic, but like the insecurity in the bodybuilding industry, I guess, or just like physique industry seems to be huge. How do you feel the same? Like being in that industry, do you feel like that is quite a big thing and a big reason why people are pursuing this, want to look a certain way because of insecurity as well as the competitiveness?
Yes. Yes.
To what extent?
To every extent. Man, it continues to become more obvious to me the deeper I get in. It became very obvious to me when I walked through the door of becoming a promoter of shows, which was 2018, so 6 years ago now, because up until then I'd only ever been a competitor. I never saw like the back end of how shows actually ran, and I didn't really have a lot to do with other competitors apart from, the guys I train with and compete against. But now as a promoter, I see all the bikini girls and all the figure girls and all the bodybuilders and the classics, and like I see everything now. And it's really opened my eyes up to it a lot. Yeah, definitely. It worries me on a number of different levels. But I don't want to kind of paint a picture of doom and gloom as well, right? Because the sport is an incredible sport. And I think if you get into the sport for the right reasons, it has, to tie back to what we originally started talking about today, it has the capacity to lift all areas of your life up. But if you partake in the sport and that is your one reason for doing what you do to the exclusion of everything else, it can be incredibly toxic, and it can have a negative effect on every other area of your life. And unfortunately, I think I tend to see that scenario play out than the former scenario where people do it for the right reasons, and they're able to see how it can positively affect every other area of their life, and they don't do it to the exclusion of everything else, and they find this nice interconnection of synchronous gears that works well. Very rare, but when it does, fucking amazing.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I guess then as well, like when you're pursuing something like that, most of those people are probably like what they started as and where they are now. They probably still look at themselves in the mirror and go, oh, well, I could be bigger. I could look better. I could do all these things. And you're like, if someone walked past them on the street, you'd be like, holy fuck, that's mad. And I think to the point again, it's like, just because what you're seeing in this person's life is amazing. Look at the physique. Oh, look how much he lifts in the gym. That's incredible. At what cost? We're not seeing it. And that's what social media as well, tying into that is, well, you're seeing the amazing physique. You're seeing, because they spam the photos at comp day and then use those photos for 12 months. And so you're assuming they look like that at all times, which they definitely don't. And so you're comparing yourself to that person, which is just a snapshot, a one image, a one day of their whole life. And that becomes the dangerous game as well, because we're not shown the dark side. Like you said, there's still great sides of it, and that's not just bodybuilding, just general social media. We're showing the light without the dark.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I'm very I do this consciously, and it is a very conscious attempt on my part, is I do, for me personally, as a pro men's physique athlete, I do check-in photos every week. No filters. Don't care if it's on season, off season, whatever. I'm just like, this is what I look like.
Yeah, that's
right. That's it, right? And I don't look like I'm fucking stepping on stage most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'm a little bit out of shape, right? And you know, I could definitely be leaner. And you know, I'm not like jacked and fucking juicy like I am, you know, 2 weeks out from a show. But like, I want to show you, this is real, right? This is even as a pro athlete, this is real, right? You're not supposed to push the fucking throttle to the max 24/7, 365. And what you're seeing a lot of, you know, it's the cliche, like you see the highlight reel. It's very true. But the highlight reel you're seeing is it's not reality.
No,
it's not reality. So you need to actually be able to kind of disconnect that and go, oh yeah, fuck. Pretty sure you posted that photo 6 months ago when you were 2 weeks out from a show. Hold on a second. I just saw that again. Wait, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know, because people do. They do. 100%.
Yeah. And I think that taps back to the insecurity is because they're worried about putting that photo up where they look like they do now, because they believe people have the expectation that they should look that way at all times. So it's just this constant battle of, I think, other people. I'm like, no one's probably thinking that.
People don't give a fuck, man.
Yeah, they're living their own life.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They got their own shit going on.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Which probably is that insecurity. I think insecurity and ego are very much an aligned sort of thing. When we, you know, the ego to think that people care that much about us.
Yeah.
Taps into that insecurity as well, because the want to feel good enough, the want to feel like people care and whatever. And it's like, but I think when you can disconnect from that, then it's really empowering, because you're like, oh, I can live life on my terms.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you're known for this. I know you walk through the gym sometime, you speak to a camera. A lot of people don't have the confidence to do that. Everyone in that gym will forget you did it like straight away. And like, so I'm finding this now, the more you do the reps, the more you do those things, the less you care. And the less, because the more you realize people don't care. And that's empowering.
Yeah, definitely is.
People can take it in the wrong way, but you know, people don't care. Like it is what it is. So with Massive Joe's, did you bootstrap that fully yourself? Cool.
100%.
Yeah. How early days, how are you navigating that? Like did you say you were 19 when you started?
19.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're not sitting there with 250K in the bank and getting this thing off the ground. So, run me through the early days. How'd that all go down?
Man, the early days were so very. I've actually never told this very early day story. So, my grandfather, my nonno, which is Italian grandfather on my mother's side, he used to give me pocket money to like buy lunch, and I don't know, you just give me like $20 here or there, right? This is when I was in school, right? And so my entrepreneurship journey started when I was in high school. So what I used to do was I used to collect the money that my nonno would give me, and I'd go to the supermarket and I'd buy like a 24 or 30 slab of like cans of Coke, and I'd take them to school and I'd sell them for like 50 cents cheaper than the tuck shop, right?
Big brain.
And I'd turn my $20 into $40 and my $40 into $80. And so that was, you know, very grassroots entrepreneurship. And so when I started Massive Joe's, now MJ Fitness, it was very similar, right? Is I started importing supplements from the US. It was pre-workouts was where I started. I remember the first product. It was NO Explode, BSN NO Explode, one of the first pre-workouts. And I literally would I didn't actually hold stock. So I used to take like pre-orders from people that trained at the Adelaide University gym, because that's where I was studying at the time. And you know, they'd say, yeah, I'll grab a tub. What flavor? I don't really care. Cool. I'll get you one. You want a tub? Yep. So I'd kind of take pre-orders, and I'd sell pre-sale like 6 tubs. And so 6 tubs would cost me $200 to import, and I'd sell them for $400, and then I'd take the $400 and take some more pre-orders, and literally bootstrap like that. So I started just with like some money that I'd saved from selling cans of Coke at fucking high school, and
the reinvestment worked well.
and just reinvest. Yeah. So I didn't have any overhead. I was 19, living at home. So, so it literally, like, that's how it started. Very cash flow positive. Take the profit, reinvest it, try and pre-order stuff so I didn't have to sit on stock. Make sure people paid up front, so I didn't give credit terms. And that's how it began, man.
So when did it start to become a business, I guess? Like, so you at that stage, you're kind of like, oh, this is cool. You know, I'm making some coin. You know, especially as a uni student, you're like, fuck yeah, you take what you can get. When did you go, oh, could do a little bit more with this?
Very quickly, because it was kind of like word of mouth, very word of mouth at the beginning, and it started to spread through the university gym. And then from the Adelaide University gym to the other university gyms, which at the time there was a small gym at Uni SA and there was a gym at Flinders Uni as well. And so very quickly I was at the point where I was like literally filling my car up with pre-workouts and proteins, and well, it wasn't proteins at the time, it was pre-workouts, creatine, test boosters, those sorts of things. And I was driving around to the different gyms and like selling supplements to people who had mainly pre-ordered them. And then they might bring a friend that wants to, you got any more? Yeah, cool. At the different gyms, right? And so very quickly, it grew quite fast. And then I think the unlock for me was, I dabbled in high school. I said I used to sell cans of Coke. So the other thing that I used to do was I grew up playing basketball. That was kind of before bodybuilding. I was a basketballer. And one of the trends in basketball as I was coming up as a, under 16s, under 18s, that sort of thing, was the Lance Armstrong Live Strong bracelets, the yellow bracelets. So I think the NBA players started wearing
balanced ones or whatever they said. Like
before
the little silver,
those,
even
it was just the yellow. It just said it was just the yellow ones that said Live Strong.
Yeah, okay.
And I think NBA players, pro basketballers started wearing them, so all the amateurs wanted to wear them. But you couldn't get them, right? No one in Australia had them. So I used to bulk order them from Nike in the US, import them, and then sell them on eBay. And locally to basketball clubs, but like that was mainly where I sold them. Import them, put them on eBay, auction them off, and I made some, people auction them off. People were paying $6-7 for them, but they were costing me like $2 to import. So the margin was fucking great. It was just small numbers. And that was kind of my exposure to very early e-com. E-com now is so easy. Fucking Shopify changed the game, right? You can set up a store like this. Back then, you couldn't, right? Unless you knew how to code and like HTML code, you had no chance of setting up a website. So you had to use, eBay was the main kind of marketplace because it was easy to set up your own store. You paid a cut of your sales to eBay, kind of like Amazon now. I think eBay still do. You paid a cut, but you could set it up very quickly. And so that was my introduction to e-commerce. So I think really where I kind of had like this delta was I could see the market for supplements because I was doing so much locally just to the uni gyms. I had this experience selling products on eBay, and I was like, I wonder if anybody's selling supplements on eBay, and nobody was. So then I was like, okay, let me take some of this money. Let me actually buy some stock that I haven't pre-ordered, and let me try and sell it on eBay and see what happens. And so I bought in, let's say I was landing a tub of pre-workout for, I think at the time it was like $30 or $40. It was quite cheap. And I put it on eBay auction, and I was the only person with supplements on eBay. And these tubs were like, I'd be watching the auction, right? Refresh. It would be like $80. Cool. Refresh. 85. Refresh, $90. Fuck. I was selling tubs of pre-workout for like $130.
Which even now people go, I'm not paying that much. Like,
yeah. So I was making like $100 a tub. Whereas selling it locally, if I landed them for $30, I was selling it for like $50.
Yeah.
Right. Put them on eBay, $130. I'm like, fuck, this is awesome. All right, let's go.
Stock.
Let's bring it. Right. So I think that was the point where I went away from pre-orders to actually carrying stock. And I started like doing some good volume. And yeah, I was the first person to sell supplements on, fuck, it probably would have been the internet, to be honest, because I don't even think there are any websites, but definitely on eBay. Yeah.
Which is interesting, just that evolution of how things have changed there as well. Like you said, like eBay is almost like is that still a thing?
Yeah.
Like it's pretty
who shops on eBay now?
Yeah. It's really like, it's like, oh, you don't use Amazon. You realize that's, been around for a while now. You can probably transition. But, and the comment in there where you said like, it's so easy to start now. But back to a previous point, you said, say with the nutrition apps, it's also so competitive.
Correct.
How do you, is a big part of that now for you is because you've established this brand and so people trust the name and all, so that's how you leverage the competitive market, because you're obviously, you're not selling your own product, you're on selling someone else's. Is that a big part of your play there?
You're 100% correct in the fact that the barriers to entry are much lower, which means the competition is much higher. The industry has changed, and the supplement sector of the fitness industry moves at such a speed. It's like, man, there's things I see where I'm like, fuck, that wasn't happening 12 months ago. It's crazy. I think from a competitive perspective, without giving too much of our internal, how we run the business secrets away, I think ultimately so much of it now is about attention and how you can get people's attention. The market is there, right? When you talk about supplements specifically, the market for supplements is there. When I first started, it was very small. The only people that used to take supplements were bodybuilders. That was it. That's why I called the business Massive Joes, right? You want to get massive, and most of my customers were men, Massive Joes. Let's fucking go, right? That's why we've rebranded to MJ Fitness now, because we service a much broader customer. But back then, very, very niche. Now the market's developed. Most people take some sort of supplement, whether it's just a basic electrolyte type supplement to a protein powder, to a sleep support, to a like most people, it's a much more developed market. So what's most important now is how do you get the attention of people in that market? Because you need their attention to be able to tell them who you are and what you do. And then it's about your value proposition, right? And you need to decide where you sit, right? Like there's going to be someone who is like, pay less, get less. We're just going to be the cheapest, but it's going to take you 2 weeks to get your shit, and we're going to fuck up your orders. You might not get what you ordered, but hey man, you paid like $50 for a tub of pre-workout. What else do you expect? And then there's the very high end of the market where like you're paying super premium. The product's there. It's exactly what you wanted. It's premium ingredients. It's fucking fantastic. You got to figure out where you sit in the value proposition matrix. You need to deliver. That's it.
It's interesting.
And that's business.
Because and it's interesting that you say that, and I've had a few business people talk about that. It's like you got to be at one end. When you sit in the middle, you're almost like a nobody as well, because when you're in the middle, it's that, well, once again, the gray area. It's the unknown. It's like, well, what are you? Am I getting it fast? Am I getting it like cheap? Am I getting it expensive? What is it? Whereas when you buy the cheap pre-workout that takes 2 weeks to get there, you're like, I don't give a shit, I just wanted it cheap. So you don't actually care, because that is what you bought into. Even though someone in the middle goes, oh, but we do like $15 more and you'll get it a little bit quicker, they're like, yeah, but I didn't want to pay the $15. And so like really understanding that people either want the Louis Vuitton or they want the Kmart, like it's and that's the longevity game as well in business.
It's the Seth Godin. Have you heard of Seth Godin before?
I've read a couple of his books. He's great.
So Seth Godin talks about the long tail and the fact that the long tail is getting longer. And what he's referring to is effectively niche, right? Is everything is so fragmented now. And people have so many choices. You can't be... Have you read Purple Cow?
It's on my bookshelf. It's like next book to read.
Oh, dude. It's going to make your head spin. Like just the fact that, but go look at what year it was written in, right? And then look at everything that he talks about and where we are now. And you're like, did this guy have a crystal ball or like, what the fuck?
He's a bit sus now.
Man, it's like he's an alien or something. Or he's time traveled. I don't know. But
you never know.
but you know, he talks about the fact that like attention is so fragmented now, right? There is no the TV ad is never going. It's never coming back, right? The way that like shit, I just pick a brand. You know, the way that no, way too early. I'm talking like Coca-Cola.
Okay, like old
right?
school.
The way that like Coca-Cola built their brand, which was just, you know what, we're going to reach as many people as possible, and there is a medium to do that. It's called television, and before television, it was radio, and before radio, it was newspaper, like this mass distribution, and everybody paid attention to 4 or 5 different things. It doesn't exist anymore because there's a million different things, and now you've got AI, game over, right? Because now there's a billion different things every day, right? And so people are going to find a niche that they resonate with, and they're going deep. So it's impossible now to reach a mass audience. How would you do it? How you can do it?
Yeah, how much money you got?
No,
you know,
but
like
it's impossible. You could have, man, you could, Elon Musk, right? How is he going to tell every person on the planet about Tesla?
There's going to be people regardless.
You can't do it. You can't do it. There's no medium that enough people pay enough attention to achieve that anymore. You can't do it. So, you know, he talks about I've gone off track, but to talk about the long tail is it's like you have to, going wide and shallow is no longer an option. You have to go narrow and deep. So narrow, you come back to value proposition. What are you? What do you stand for? What's your value proposition?
Yeah.
Who do you appeal to? Who's your customer? In granular detail. Go deep into that. That's what becomes super important. So when we talk about attention, you need to get the attention of people. You need to tell them who you are and what you do in granular detail, and you need to dive deep into that niche.
Yeah. And I guess then through that, when you go that one path, sure, you'll pick up some stragglers along the way as well.
Of course you will.
But like it's just, otherwise your messaging is very distorted and people are unsure of what you are. And that probably causes a lack of trust. Then if they're unsure of what you are, who you are, what you stand for, they're like, don't really trust you now. Which then, like, to the point of like the more frequent, you know, a Gymshark, whatever, I only got an ad for them the other day, and it's like we do the gym, or we do lifting. Like it's they still are very much, even though they have runners and boxers as sponsored athletes and all these things, it's very clear, it's in their name, it's what they do the gym. Like, so you can see that level of, that's where we're going with it as well, which is, you know, some people will try and be everything. And I guess, you know, someone will be like, oh, Nike does everything. But back to our point earlier, it's like, yeah, but look how long they've been in the game. So they can start to do those sort of things a little bit easier, but you know, they're still not the cheap brand. Like they're on the top level of clothing. And
have you read Shoe Dog?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. What'd you think?
It's interesting because I find books, my thing with books is I'm not a big story book person. Like I struggle with storybooks. So I got a little bit like, not bored during it. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, it wasn't my type of book as per se, but it was very beneficial.
Do you own anything Nike?
Lots.
Yeah. Why did you buy it?
This is an interesting question.
Like, I'm not trying to like. It's not like a squirrely question.
It's ego.
I'm actually interested to know, like, what drove the purchasing decision to buy that particular pair of Nike shoes or that Nike top, or like what was it?
I would be wholly and solely is because it makes me think that I'm better. Yeah. I think Nike's better. And I think when I went, because I was a javelin thrower. Yeah. And so I grew up watching athletics and all the sports. And all the best people wore Nike. So I'm like, I'm the best.
In athletics.
I wear Nike. Yeah.
Right. So Shoe Dog I've read Shoe Dog 3 times now. 3 times. Sometimes I go back and reread books. Shoe Dog's one of them. So Nike started in running. That's where they began. Yeah. And then they went to athletics. And then once they were all sorted there, then they went to, I think it was tennis. And then they went to basketball. And then they went to name the sport, right? Yeah. So they they're an incredible, and the timing was different once again, right? You're talking about a brand. You're talking about a brand now that is, when did Phil Knight start Nike? In the, what was it, the 60s?
65 or something like that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're talking about a brand that's, fuck, man, 60 years old. Almost 60 years old.
You couldn't even get the business name of something like that these days. A
No.
4-letter word.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah, right. But like, even if you look at the progression of Nike, yes, now Nike means a lot to a lot of different people. But even within that, like, I own Nike things. It's because of basketball.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck that Nike's involved in running. I couldn't care, right? I don't care that Nike was on all the javelin throwers were wearing Nike. I don't care. I don't care that all the top tennis players and Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras and name the name. What, I don't care. I care because Michael Jordan wore Nike.
Yeah.
Right. So Nike was a master. They were one of the first influencer marketing brands. You look at how they did that, right? Like in when they first started with the running shoes, it was the top runners, right, that people used to watch before social media, but it was the best, right? When they went into tennis, I'm pretty sure it was Andre Agassi, I think. When it was basketball, it was Michael Jordan, right? And that was what they did. It was literally influencer marketing, but it was very deep into that niche in the different sports. Now you zoom out and you're like, fuck, Nike's everywhere. They do everything. Yeah, they did, but it was one thing at a time.
But I still think it's interesting because, like, in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot they don't do still.
Oh, of course
like
there
it's,
is.
you know,
Yeah.
like it's so,
Yeah.
you know, they're still very niche in that messaging.
Yeah.
Like they're in lots of sports,
Yeah.
but they still only pick the best athletes.
Yeah.
You're not getting an amateur sponsored by Nike. Or like, sure, they might send you a couple of pairs of shoes to try and toot your horn and make you want to, you know, just in case you make it in the future,
Yeah.
they'll remember that they sent you a pair of shoes or something like that. But when you hear Nike, it's the best. Look at all their Olympics ads. Like the one that they just posted recently, I'm like, goosebumps. I was like, fuck. Like it's that, like, when you wear Nike, you go, I'm the best. I'm not, but you know, it makes you feel that way. So it's really interesting. If someone was about to start a business, early days, they're thinking about it, the 19-year-old, what's some advice you would give them maybe around why they should or shouldn't start a business? Not necessarily the technical aspect of business mindset.
I think if they're asking the question, they shouldn't.
That's good.
That would be my advice. I think that if you need to ask that question, you probably should go work for someone else. Not to say that you're never going to run a business, but at that young of an age, you either have an entrepreneurial streak or you don't. And I'm not. I want to be very careful with how I articulate this because I'm very much an advocate for growth mindset, and I know that this can come across as very fixed mindset, meaning that like people are incapable of developing skills and people are born a certain way, and that's what it is. But business is really fucking hard. Like it's really, really difficult. And I think that the picture that's painted, especially through social media, is that anybody can run a business and all you have to do is work hard and persevere and have grit and discipline and, you know, name the fucking keyword, and you're going to build a successful business. Once again, we talk about levels. Everyone that runs a successful business does all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So how are you going to compete? Right. Business is really, really hard. I think at that young of an age, if you don't deep down know that you are supposed to be running a business, you shouldn't be running a business. So go work for someone else, develop some skills, see how you like it. You might go, fuck, I actually like being an employee, or I like being 2IC, or I like being another buzzword at the moment is intrapreneur, right? Yeah. I like being an intrapreneur, being like an entrepreneur inside someone else's business because I don't want the headaches and worrying about cash flow and fucking product development and all that sort of stuff. I just don't want it. Cool. That's fine. Go live your life. That's for most people, good choice. If you know that like, man, I don't really know anything else, then you should be running a business.
Yeah.
At that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's like, I've had people ask me, like, it's, you know, I've had a couple of jobs, but every time I've had a job, I've always been doing things on the side. I started a clothing brand when I was in like year 10 and all these sort of things, you know, like it just doesn't seem like a choice. Like it's a weird, when someone, oh, why do you do business? I'm like, I don't think I even have a straight answer for that. Like it's because if I try not to do business or I tried to step into like it feels wrong. I don't feel like it, whether that's that why or not reaching my potential, whatever it may be, it just feels wrong. And I think like to your point, like it's, you kind of just do know. You really do know if it's meant for you. But like and I guess then you can still take the mindset of go out there and try a shit ton of things, which is very much kind of the entrepreneurial mindset of doing that. You can still do that within jobs. Try a heap of jobs. Try and find the industry that really suits you and what you find motivates you in terms of that cause, what you want to do to the world. It doesn't mean you're not taking that same entrepreneurial sort of mindset to that as well. Then you might fall into that job, realize that it's flawed, and therefore you've got a business that you could solve those problems with as well.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be at 18.
That's right. 100%. And like my journey, you know, I haven't really had the opportunity to talk about the early years either, right? Like the way I usually talk about journey, because most people wanted me to talk about my business journey, right? So I started at 19, I drove around selling supplements out the back of my car. I started a website. I built the website. I finished my studies and then I committed to the business full time. So in that period between 19 and so I graduated university, I was there fucking 8 years. So 27, right? So in between that period of 19, let's call it 19 to 26, my business was a side hustle, right? Because I was still studying, right? So I studied mechanical engineering and law. So it was full-time study. It wasn't fucking arts degree, fucking, you know, go there for 3 hours a week. Like I was fucking there, man. I was every day, Monday to Friday, in lectures, in shoots. If I wasn't there, I was in the computer, like I was fucking working. And so I ran this, what had become an online business in the morning before I went to uni and then at night. So that happened from 19, 20, 21, 22. 22, 23, I finished my engineering degree and I just had law to finish off. So my workload in university dropped significantly. I probably went from, let's call it like 40 hours a week to probably like 25. But at the same time, I got recruited by Santos to go work in oil and gas as an engineer, right? So I was like, okay, cool, right? They're paying me really fucking well. I was like, yeah, sweet. Okay, cool. So that period, I was in the morning, I was like getting back to emails, packing orders, take them. Well, I couldn't even take them to Australia Post. I used to give them to my mum to take to Australia Post because they weren't open.
First employee.
Yeah, right. Thanks, mum. Then 2 to 3 days a week, I'd work full time at Santos, right? So I was working for someone else, right? And then the other 2 to 3 days a week, I was studying. And then at night, come home, get back to emails, pack orders, right? So even at that point, I was still almost like taste testing, right? I was kind of like, even though like I knew like I had that entrepreneurial streak, like I say, from when I was in high school, like I always kind of dabbled. But at the same time, I was like, well, but I also want to see what it's like working for someone else, right? And I had the opportunity to, so I did. And I think for me, that the one thing that did for me, apart from allowing me to earn some more money to reinvest back in my business, which is what I did. Like I took all the money that Santos was paying me and just bought more supplements with it. Like literally, that's what I did. I was like, sweet, I can grow now. But you know, the one thing that really reinforced to me, especially when I finished my studies, when I finished my law degree, and it was like, okay, well now, you know, like it's black and it's white. Like I need to make a decision here. And I remember talking to my dad about it. And for me, it was very clear that like I was supposed to be an entrepreneur, you know, because I'd had by that time it was like 3.5 years working for a big corporate company, multi-billion-dollar, massive, engineering company. And I was like, I could do it. Yeah, sure. Fantastic. I could do it. It was a great job, paid really well. Lunch breaks, I was out of there by 5:30. Fantastic. But I was like, but this is like, this just fits. It just fits. So for me, I think that even going through that process really kind of reinforced that, I was supposed to run my own business. I was supposed to be an entrepreneur. And so tying it back to your question, when you say, what piece of advice would I give to the 19-year-old? Fuck, man, even the 19-year-old, I'd probably go, look, even if deep down, like you think that you're supposed to run a business, just go work for someone else. See what it feels like.
Well, there's a lot of skills to be learned still.
Because, even that's going to reinforce, like you might get 5 years down the track, you're fucking in your mid-20s, you're still a kid, right? And then you might go, yeah, okay, I had that entrepreneurial itch and now I've gone and I've worked for someone else and it's reinforced it.
Yeah.
And like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. And now I want to go and do my own thing. Yeah.
And I think that's also like, you're not necessarily, even if you have that entrepreneurial, that business mindset, you don't necessarily have the business idea. And so over the years of skill stacking in your 20s, working for someone else, doing the side hustle, you're navigating actually what you're going to end up in business doing, which will continue to evolve and change over time, of course. But like it's the chances that you know exactly what it is. And I always talk on my own story of this as well. Is like I tried drop shipping. I tried this. I tried that. I worked in a warehouse. I worked at New Balance. I did all these things on the side. I was creating content. And so you constantly like, didn't like that. Oh, I liked a little bit of that. And then you're adjusting. And then I constantly found myself coming back to fitness. So then I became a PT, even though I already had the qualification and ages ago. And then you just naturally kind of progress. But it's that pursuit of trying things that you then fall into what you're supposed to be doing as well.
Yeah, it's almost like a process of elimination.
Yeah.
It's like, I think Gary Vee talks about this, where he talks about like, how do you figure out what foods you like and what foods you don't like? Is you just have to taste them. It's kind of similar to like your career. Like how do you figure out what you're really passionate about? Well, you have to, at some point you have to try it, right? And you might, oh, fuck, I like this. And we'll lean into it. And you might try something else. You're like, oh, fuck, I don't like that. Man, I worked as a lawyer for 6 months. After studying law for 4 years, I was like, get me the fuck out of here. I was like, I do not like this. This is not, hey man, this is not the dream that was sold.
No.
This is not Suits.
Someone lied to me somewhere along the way.
This is not like what they have on TV, man.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like to someone else, they go, this is great.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine as well. Like it's not to say that's not for everyone. And then I think an interesting point you've talked about as well is like, not all your hobbies have to turn into a business or something like that as well. So for a long time, the content creation for me was such a massive hobby. And I was like, oh, I should do this. And so I tried to pursue the content from a fitness point of view. And maybe it was a little bit forced. I mean, it taught me a lot. And I got a lot of value out of it. Made some money with online coaching, et cetera, et cetera. But I was like, I don't want to sit behind a desk and just edit videos all day. And so that was a learning. Someone else will love it. Not for me. Like I prefer these conversations and then someone else can do the editing because that's what they're better at doing and that's what they enjoy doing. And it's like, you're just navigating constantly.
And I think that the flip side of that, when I talk about not every hobby has to become a business as well, we spoke off camera about this, about my podcast. As soon as you add a financial element, it starts to morph and evolve, So like you may have a hobby that you just fucking love doing, right? And you just love it and you want to do it when you want to do it and you don't want to do it when you don't want to do it. And it's just one of these things and you can just fucking float like a leaf in the wind with it. Fantastic. And it's just your outlet. You're passionate and good. Soon as you try and monetize that, looks completely different. I mentioned the Fitness Times Business podcast. I was like, I got to a point at the end of last year where I just wasn't enjoying doing it anymore. It started off as a passion project for me. I've never monetized it, never run ads, never done that sort of stuff. Yeah, from time to time, I've used it to get people's attention, to point them towards a MJ Fitness Challenge or some TMJ Apparel, whatever. But I've never like taken on like a monetary obligation to it. So as soon as I got to a point where I was like, I don't really feel like doing this right now, I just turned it off.
Yeah.
0 fucks. And now, 7 months later, 8 months later, I'm back where I'm like, okay, now the fire's burning again. Let's go again. Had I turned that into a business, I wouldn't have been able to do that because I would have had people relying on me. I would have had people financially invested. I would have had businesses financially invested. They're like, where's the next episode? You told us you'd give us this many reads. You told us you'd promote this in June and July and August and it's not happening. And it's completely different.
Yeah.
So, not we're talking business about, like, one of the prerequisites of business is you have to be passionate about what you do, which is very, very true. It doesn't mean that everything you're passionate about has to become a business.
Yeah, well, otherwise, how many businesses do you want to start?
Yeah.
You know, like it's,
And then there's nothing left that you just fucking enjoy doing.
yeah, some things in life you just do.
You just do because you love it.
Yeah.
And then when you don't love it, you don't do it.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Well, it's interesting because then it becomes the navigation of knowing, much like, should I pursue this shiny object sort of thing, or should I put it to the, like, is that a black and white yes or a no with the business idea? It's the same here. It's like, well, do I want to pursue this as something that does make money or not? Because just because it's a hobby also now doesn't mean it's not a good pursuit of business. It could be. But, maybe, or even now, like as a personal thing, like I'm not necessarily pursuing this as trying to make a load of money. It was that personal brand. It was having amazing conversations and sharing that, because similar to your causes, like one of my big things in life is I want to help people reach their potential. And I think a lot of people get nowhere near. And even if it's just a little bit further than they would have without listening to some piece of content I put out, I'm like, well, maybe I will turn this into more of a monetized thing later on. But right now it's not. And so those things can also ebb and flow as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is in your control. So that's really good. Well, I really appreciate your time, Joe. It's been an amazing conversation. Lots of value for everyone to get out there. So I thank you very much.
Man, it's been a pleasure being here. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem.
And I look forward to the next one.
Excellent. Thank you.